Greetings, everyone. Hi, good morning to everyone on the Pacific Coast, and good afternoon to all my friends on the East Coast. Hi, Sal, how you doing?
Hi, NJ. How are you today?
Good. I'm so honored to have Sal Gentile with me today and his lovely wife, Mattie. They both reside in Daytona Beach, Florida. And guess what? Sal is going to be on the hot seat today while his lovely wife is out having lunch with her friends. Anyway, Sal, you are a retired IBM executive, an Army National Guard veteran, a former rock band manager, and you even worked during the mail strike. But today, you are a popular support group leader for the American Tinnitus Association. And Sal, you and I were chatting earlier, and people just don't believe that there are over 50 million people throughout the United States who have experienced tinnitus. So I'd like to start our journey today. And where are you going to take us? To Tampa? Can you hear me, Sal?
Yes, I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, just on pronunciation, NJ, we pronounce tinnitus. Usually, the professionals, the audiologists and ENTs will pronounce it tinnitus.
Yes, and I've heard
people like myself will pronounce it tinnitus, tinnitus, or tinnitus. So
okay.
it's tinnitus or tinnitus. And I like to clarify that for the audience, because many people, I remember when I was in the gym one day and my happy place, and I said to someone, well, I have tinnitus, and they said, tendinitis, what's wrong with your arm? So,
yes.
You know, it really means a lot when people do understand that. So this all started in Tampa, Florida. I resided there for approximately 20 years. Part of that time, I was still working for IBM. And I belong to the Tampa Bay Freewheelers. I'm an avid long-distance bicyclist. One day, we were riding our bicycles, and someone said, in a line of other bicyclists, and someone said, left turn. And I heard, couldn't make, well, I went right. Well, the whole group went left. And then I started realizing that for some reason I couldn't understand what they were saying. It was more of a muffled type voice. And this continued and continued. And what I realized, NJ, over time was that the quality of my life was deteriorating. I would go out to restaurants, and people, other couples with my wife and myself, we would be having conversations, and I would find myself laughing and embarrassed because I really couldn't understand what they were saying. And I didn't want them to think for any reason at all that I couldn't understand them. So there are many people out there that do this to the date, and it's really something that we try and teach people with hearing loss, and particularly tinnitus. And it's really very difficult to be with people and not understand what they're saying, but yet kind of fake that you really understand because you don't want to feel embarrassed. So this went on, and basically the quality of my life became completely deteriorated, and I had to do something about it. And I wasn't really that concerned about it, you know. Actually, it was like, well, you know, I'll just take care of it when I decide to take care of it. Until one day on July 13th, it will be 11 years this July 13th. I woke up, I was out, it was my birthday, I was celebrating the night before, and I woke up, and I don't imbibe, by the way, I'm not a drinker, I'm a health enthusiast. And the next day I woke up and I had roaring, 4 noises going through my ears. I can only explain it as some type of machinery being one noise, the second noise being the tail of a rattlesnake rattling through my ears, the third noise being a hissing type noise, like a steam pipe, and the fourth noise being somewhat of water crashing into rocks, very hard to explain. And they were high pitched. Now, when you get these high pitched types of tinnitus types noises, they are devastating. If there's an audience out there listening, they understand high pitch. And exactly, the high pitch is usually much more tougher to deal with than the lower pitch. Well, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't get out of bed, and I'm a very social person. I put the covers over my head. I thought I had a brain injury. I thought there was something severely wrong with me, traumatically wrong with me. I was afraid to go to the doctor because I was afraid what they were going to say.
What were you afraid of? What were you afraid of?
I was afraid that they would tell me that I had some sort of a brain tumor or some type of injury with one of my organs that was causing this problem, specifically a brain tumor. So for 4 days, I stayed in bed, and finally, I knew I had to get myself up. Thank God, my coach, my wife, the lady who's been with me through this for the last 11 years, and thank goodness married for 44 years, said to me, "Hey Sal, we got to go to a doctor." So went to my GP, and he said to me, "Well, I can't really find anything wrong. We did a whole bunch of blood tests, and you it seems as though you have tinnitus." And I said, "Well, what do I have?" And he said, "Tinnitus." And I said, "Well, what's that?" And he said, "Well, that's ringing in your ears." I said, "Well, I have all these different noises going through my head." And he said, "Well, I'm sorry, but it's tinnitus." And I said, "Well, what do people do for it?" And that's the first thing he said to me was, you live with it. And I said, "Excuse me?"
Oh.
And he said, "Live with it." And he said, "Just suck it up and move out there and live your life." And this,
Very
to
insensitive.
the audience, if I may, they will understand this completely. So many, I'll say hundreds of people, if not thousands, have been told that, because tinnitus is what we call an invisible condition. Tinnitus is in the brain, not in the ears, 95% of the cases. So that was not good enough for me. And I went on to see approximately 21 different types of hearing professionals. I was basically told, again, suck it up, live with it, ENTs, ear, nose, and throat doctors. So when an ENT can't find anything wrong, they will just tell you to go live with it. What they're really telling you, it depends on their bedside manner. What they're really telling you is, I cannot help you. There's no way I can help you, so you're just going to have to live with this. Now, there is something outside of the ear with tinnitus called somatic tinnitus. That could be earwax. That could be an Eustachian tube infection in the ear that can go on for some time. It could be a misaligned jaw. I've worked with people, countless people, many of them who've had, over the years, who've had that type of situation. So if the ear, nose, and throat doctor cannot, and by no means am I picking on them, but if they cannot understand that they cannot, when they understand, they cannot help you, but cannot understand the problem, many of them just say, "Well, go live with it. I'm just off to my next patient." Well, I did some research, and I happened to find an organization called the American Tinnitus Association. And they have what I would call a list of doctors who you can basically look up and find perhaps in your respective state. And I found this amazing doctor who unfortunately was not in at the time, but referred me to a Dr. Christopher Spankovich up at University of Health, Florida, with the old Shands Institute, as we call it, in Gainesville. So go Gators. So I went up there and seen, and he knows if he's on right now, we'll call him by his first name, Chris. I went on and seen Chris, and Chris spent approximately 4 hours with me, and he helped me understand exactly what was happening to me and why I had it and what I needed to do to learn to live with it. And the first thing that we did was we had to do a hearing test and basically get me a pair of hearing aids. I will tell you, and there are 6 manufacturers out there that are really great, but I've been using Widex
Why?
for some time now, because Widex, so hearing aids have both sound and amplification. So Widex, in my mind, in all the due diligence I've done, have been pioneers in what we call sound and what we call sound therapy. So basically what happens is, and I'll get right into it right now. So when people are struggling so much, they need something to distraction. They need a distraction. They go into what we call fright, not flight. So if you put a plane, you're in a plane and the pilot's out there and he puts the plane on, hits all his computers, he can actually be in flight. Well, unfortunately, these people are in fright. The limbic system in their brain actually starts, you have like little trap doors in there. They start, there's what's called serotonin, and we won't go any higher than explaining it this way. So these doors open and close, and what happens is they get anxious. So tinnitus actually causes anxiety. So tinnitus and anxiety go hand in hand. So we'll just stop and go back for a second. The sound, what practitioners, audiologists who are saviors, and what we call hearing instrument specialists, both very good. What they do, particularly tinnitus, certified ones, will run certain types of hearing tests and conduct them, and they will procure, actually, an audiologist or a hearing instrument professional can't sell you a hearing aid. The only one who sells you a hearing aid is you. They can just suggest what's good for you to use, but you're the one that actually has to buy it. And there are trials out there in different states where you can pilot these hearing aids for 30 days. Well, he had set me up with Widex. And actually, I remember going to, now he was a clinical professor, remember? So I actually had to go to a practitioner, and I was fitted with a pair of Widex hearing aids, and they had both sound and amplification, but we found a sound that was a liking to me, and that was running water. So what happens is, over time, we use sound in trying to help people lower the tinnitus by focusing on something that's more pleasant to them. It could be a baby's heartbeat, it could be running water, it could be anything that is soothing to them. We don't want the Rolling Stones up there, because what happens is that just takes that limbic system and makes that serotonin start moving in the brain again. So that's something we don't want. So we use something soothing, a noise that's soothing. And over time, this is called brain retraining, NJ. And brain retraining is actually the first support structure that is utilized with helping people with tinnitus, and that's done through hearing aids. So over time, the brain actually becomes distracted from the sounds that people are hearing, whether that be 1, 4, or 6, and they actually focus, the brain actually starts focusing on the what we call white noise. In my case, again, it was running water. And over time, it sort of cancels itself out to where you really don't care about it that much. And so let's say if your hearing loss was from a scale of 1 to 10 out of 6. What an audiologist or hearing instrument professional will do is bring that hearing back up to a 10, and at the same time, utilizing that amplification that they just adjusted and sound. People kind of drowns out the noise. Now, we don't want to mask the noise. We never want to mask it. We always want to keep the noise that you're using lower than the noise that you're actually hearing. So the brain actually picks up on this. And I utilize hearing aids. When I went to the gym, Dr. Spankovich, Chris taught me, hey, Chris, if you're out there, big hello, taught me how to use an iPod, a little $60 iPod. I downloaded white noise on it, running water, rain,
Waterfalls.
kinds of noise, babies' heartbeats. So then, Jay, they have different types of noise. They have lavender noise, pink noise. So it's a choose and pick type of scenario for people. It's what they really like that will work for them. So for me, again, it was basically the water, the running water, water running out of a faucet that really helped me over time learn how to retrain my brain. So this is one specific type of support structure that we utilize right now today. Meeting Chris from the American Tinnitus Association, which I haven't even talked about. As you know, I am you introduced me as I'm an American Tinnitus support group leader. I've actually been with the American Tinnitus Association for approximately 10 and a half years right now. They originated in 1971. They're a global leader in the effort to try and find a cure. They have every type of information you would want on their website, from understanding facts to some of the research that's out there and the professional resources. They're a global organization, and their main focus is to finding a cure. Now, they're a 501c3 organization, and as you know, money is tight, specifically these days, particularly with what we went through the last year with COVID. So I always look to try and get people to donate or become members. And by the way, if I may, their website is www.ata, that's Apple, TeresaApple.org. An amazing and abundant amount of information with such a limited staff. So I joined ATA, and I wanted to do more to try and help find cures. And it's very difficult when you're lecturing in a room and you have so many people in there and you have to tell them that there's no cure. Well, we tell them that, but we also explain to them that for the time being, the way I explain to them, and I lead by example, I teach by example, I educate. Education is the most important tool that can help people understand exactly what's going on in their heads, making them realize that it's not in their ear in most cases, it's in their brain. And so for me, utilizing the education portfolio, I have different tools. I have like a little toolbox that I use depending on who and when I'm speaking with. I like to use the ATA portfolio because they really have, they just have so much information. It is just incredibly amazing. But again, with a limited staff of people. And by the way, we're not going to leave our veterans for 1 second here. Yes, I am a registered National Guard veteran. I'm very proud of that. And I will tell you, I work with a lot of veterans, and for years, well, currently, and for the years that I've known it to be a fact, tinnitus is the #1 leading support disability for the veterans. I mean, so you know, it's out there. I mean, there are veterans that come back and need hearing aids, and the VA does an amazing job, but we need to take care of our veterans. It's that simple. And you know, there are times, I'll give you an example. I've been working with a Navy man who went down in a helicopter, and he has traumatic brain injury. And well, I've known him for some time, and he calls me from time to time. And to this day, we still talk about what went on and his tinnitus and how I can help him. I've become more of not necessarily just an educator, but someone who reaches deep into other people and with my heart and soul, and tries to improve the quality of their life.
You're like a voice for them.
Yes, exactly.
So I would like to interject. We're getting
Yes.
a note from a viewer, Jerry Facenti, who's with the Italian Python Club. He's the president. He just sent you a message, and he said that he wanted us to relay the fact that you have helped countless people at the villages. And I want to interject now. You and Mattie used to live at the villages. Now that is one of the most sought out active adult retirement community retirement centers. So why did you and Mattie leave?
So that's a very good question. And by the way, hello, Jerry, how are you? Love to you and Annette. Jerry's a very big fan of mine, runs a very big successful club, and he does a lot of other amazing things to help residents improve the quality of their life in the villages. So yes, we lived in the villages for 5 years, and they have an amazing lifestyle. You know, to answer your question, I'll be quite honest with you. When we first moved there, it was great, and it continued to be great. But what we learned over the years, it just got a little too big for us. So big meaning, you know, there were 140,000 people that lived there, and we found the lines to be a little bit too long, and you know, there's a lot of kind people there, and it's like, well, you go any place, and then you're going to have a few entitled people. Right. But it was basically because of that reason that we decided we wanted to move to a smaller location, which we have here in Margaritaville, and we really wanted to be by the beach. That was the critical reason that made us move. We fell in love with the beach.
Well, Sal, I wanted to stay at the villages for a few minutes, and from my research that I read that there were 2 independent filmmakers who actually helped you raise money for tinnitus through one of their premiere movies. So,
you know, trying to keep on track with this is very difficult because there's so much involved. I was actually going to talk about my 2 bicycle rides, raising over $20,000 for tinnitus cures, working with the American Tinnitus Association. But yes, I met a fellow by the name of Michael Domino. Michael, don't know if you're out there, film producer with his partner who lived in the villages, but both of them were from New York City, and they were film producers, and they were producing a short video, movie video, and or short film, excuse me. And the 2 of us just happened, that's what happens in the villages. There's so many people, you know, very positive, of course. You run into people, you start talking with them. And sure enough, he said to me, Sal, you work with this American Tinnitus Association. What if the 2 of us partnered together and we did a fundraiser for them? And I said, I'm all for fundraisers. I mean, I can recall back doing a fundraiser for Ferrari of Tampa Bay, where we actually brought an employee, one of the staff members from ATA at the time when they were in Oregon to Florida. And we raised approximately $7,000 at Ferrari of Tampa Bay, put on a big fundraiser. So I said, sure, that's great. So the 2 of us, we promoted it. I did a lot of the promoting. I love promoting and marketing, particularly, of course, for tinnitus. And so we had one of the recreation centers, and we had approximately, I believe, almost 200 people. And actually, I have a good friend of mine, Scott Ambrusta, a colleague, who is the founder of what's called Sound Pillows. Now, the Sound Pillow sleep system. Hey, Scott, if you're out there, hello, big hello. So Scott, basically these pillows, when people can't sleep at night from tinnitus. So I'm going to get off the track for a second, if you don't mind, back to the villages. But people cannot sleep at night. They're up all night. They're haunted. I talk to people who haven't slept for days. Scott produces this pillow that has, oh, I'm sure it's been upgraded, but hundreds of different sounds and noises on it, with 2 dual speakers in the pillow itself. I actually, when I went to Italy, I took the small pillow with me, and it put me to sleep. It works for people with tinnitus. It works for people, and we're getting off the subject, but overstressed executives and people with chronic illnesses, but particularly with tinnitus. Scott hit a home run when he invented the founder of this tool. So he donated a pillow, and we did an auction. And with Michael Domino, he showed the film, the short story film, and it was about manufacturing during the 70s, and it was called The Expediter. And everybody loved it. They applauded, and afterwards we all took a turn and spoke. They spoke about the film. They spoke about what they were doing to try and help the American Tinnitus Association find cures. And I got up on the podium and spoke about tinnitus and hearing loss, specifically tinnitus.
I have, go ahead.
Go ahead, NJ, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have 2 more questions from viewers. We have to acknowledge our viewers out there. We have a question from Cindy Vasquez from Sacramento, California, and she wants to know, what is lavender noise?
So, okay, you can Google, Cindy, a lot of these different noises. When I mention pink noise and lavender noise, these are what we call softer type noises. So a good example might be, and I'm just right off the top of my head, and by the way, I'm always willing to get back to people if I don't know an answer. In this case, I do. It's more like maybe an ocean type of noise, with the ocean swaying back and forth, the shore, sitting on a beach, sitting on a cruise ship and hearing the waves. These are what we call light types of noises that people basically like to hear. So I would call that more of a lavender or pink type of noise versus the running water, which is more of in a sense, a harsher type of noise. So another example would be, so I have people, of course, who are challenged with tinnitus who tell me, hey, Sal, you know what? I was in a shopping center the other day, and I was outside in a factory outlet center, and there was this pond with the sprinkler systems going off, and I sat out and had a bite to eat, and boy, did that help my tinnitus. Just the noise of the pond, the water shooting up, and delicately and gently hitting the water. So those are more what we call lavender or light noises.
Right. And I have another comment coming in from Cheryl Noel, and she wanted to thank you for all your efforts to help others. And she also says she has some innovative ideas, I guess she would like to share with you.
So Cheryl is a very amazing young lady. She works with the Hearing Loss Association. And if I may, now that we're on that subject, hello, Cheryl, how are you? So Cheryl, I spoke for them just recently. I requested to be a guest speaker. I do this. I go to Rotary clubs. I go to civic, organizations. I'll go to any organization that would like me to come and speak. And unfortunately, now we're doing this. We're actually holding off on classes. We may start up again and doing things live because of COVID-19. And I spoke at the, I believe it was in February last month, in one of Cheryl's meetings. And I tell you, and Jay, when I get done speaking and people have education and understand more about, and I haven't even gotten into, it would take 5 hours on a show to explain to you, when I talk about what's going on in the brain, where it's actually happening in the brain and what's actually happening. But it really gives me goosebumps to be able to help people. Now, I will tell you, now that we're on the subject of using the internet and doing things kind of offline and not being face-to-face in front of people, I've been Zooming and Skyping people as far as Lithuania, who I helped a young lady in Lithuania just about a week ago. I get calls from all over the world. People send me emails on my tvtinnitus at gmail.com, which I know you'll discuss, and we set up appointments and I help them. Actually, the hearing review, I was just in contact with them. This is a big publication that did a huge Q&A, question and answer interview with me a few years ago, is going to redo that interview once again. And when I started talking with the editor, and I said to him, well, geez, he said, well, what are your services and what are your charges? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, people are asking, how much does this cost? And I said, well, I've been doing it for 11 years as a volunteer. Why would I want to charge someone with tinnitus? And he just applauded me. He thought that was great. And I love what I do. Not everything is about money. Compensation is great, but to help people with tinnitus and walk away knowing that you just improved the quality of their life and gave them hope, help, and a safe place to discuss their tinnitus just makes my day.
Well, I have a few questions for you. I'm really interested in how you were able to beat anxiety, because that was very much part of your life.
So, do we have about 17 hours now?
No.
I have a good sense of humor. And my sense of humor is very good. I live a very high quality life. Yes, I did beat severe anxiety disorders. And we don't want to confuse the fact that people who do get tinnitus get anxiety disorders from them. But the fact that I am not a registered psychiatrist, I am not a psychologist, I am not an audiologist, I certainly am not a GP, and I'm not going to tell people to go live with things. But what I can tell you, quite frankly, is that it gives me more insight knowing what I went through, being anxious and having a panic disorder, to be able to help other people. So I was fighting severe anxiety and a panic disorder, mainly when I was a young man. Now, you asked me a question and you asked me how I learned to overcome it. The tough answer I can give you, and it's a little bit more of a harsher answer, is you just got to fight. You got every day, you never give up. You just keep on moving and moving and doing whatever that you can do to help yourself to move forward. It's 5 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. The second thing I did, and you have to have a positive attitude. Your attitude has to be basically amazing. If you don't have a positive attitude, whether it be an anxiety disorder, and I know we're on that subject, but I have to go to my little tool bag and pull out my tinnitus tools. Even with tinnitus, you have to have a positive attitude. People always worrying, even with anxiety, what's going to happen tomorrow? Oh my, I have to drive someplace, and am I going to be anxious? Or am I not going to be anxious? And that's when I found out about something called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. So I met a psychologist and spent several years taking cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, cognitive behavioral therapy is a different type of therapy that we also use for people with tinnitus, and they basically will teach people, and I want to use this along the same lines as anxiety. It's not about the noise, but it's about your reaction to the noise. It's a behavioral method. So by working with it, for instance, I'm driving my car along and I'm in the left lane down here in sunny Florida, and somebody decides that they're going to go cut me off. And my first reaction is, what did you do? You seen where I was. You didn't even put on your blinker. And everybody gets upset right away. Well, we stop and we take a deep breath and we say, well, maybe that young lady had to get home because her child was very sick or rushed to the hospital. Or perhaps that gentleman got a call that his wife had a baby. Now, in many cases, that may not be the case, but the fact of the matter is we learn to retrain our brains on a different but similar type of methodology as white noise, but using a different tool. And we learn over time how to retrain our brains. And that's basically what I did. I tried my best to being in my happy place, any gym or health club, being on my bicycle. I did things to distract myself the same way I would do things to distract or teach people to distract themselves by tinnitus. So lastly, I just want to mention one point that I think that's important. The fact that I've had this anxiety disorder and learned to live with it. I'll tell you, there were times, and I have no problem saying this, I had to take weeks off of work. And there were times when I couldn't go to the National Guard to the tours and finished became a successful IBM, AT&T executive, customer service executive, customer relationship management executive, and finished my tour of duty in the National Guard. And yes, that's how I beat it. There's an old saying that it's persistent pains.
Right.
Persistence does pay, and it's a lot of persistence and it's a lot of initiative. And sometimes that's what you have to do. If you don't have it, you have to go get find someone that can help you. Kind of like what I do with people with tinnitus. In my case, this psychologist was just amazing.
Okay, I have a few more questions before we run out of time. One is, how important is a proper healthy diet and exercise?
Oh my God! You can ask Dr. Spankovich. He'll tell. Boy, carrots and healthy. I eat very healthy, so you will never find. I don't drink. You will never find me. People tell me, well, that's kind of boring. You don't drink. And I'm like, I'm having a good time. I don't know why it's boring. I don't need 10 beers to have a great time and go out there and dance. I just go out there and dance and have fun with my wife. So, it's extremely important to not only for the body, but for the mind to stay healthy. I eat salads. I eat a lot of protein, chicken, fish, particularly here in Daytona Beach. Mattie and I like to go down to a lot of the beach restaurants, and we love to go out and eat fish for lunch, and just different types of varieties of food. And I watch what I eat also. I don't eat cake. I might taste it every once in a while, but I'm not a cake eater. So I'm very, very conscientious of what's going into my mouth and exactly what I'm eating every day.
That's good. How did you get your nickname, Athletic Beast?
So in the villages, we have, and there still is, an amazing health club or fitness center. And so people would see me like working out and exercising, and they would come up to me and say, that's pretty good for a 50-year-old. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm 70 years old. 68 years old.
You don't look at it.
And they'd say, I'm sorry, how old is that? And I said, well, I just turned 68. And they're like, well, you've been on the bicycle for an hour and 15 minutes spinning. I said, yeah, I blew off about 600 calories. Now I'm going to lift weights for an hour.
Oh my God.
So that's one reason I inherited that reputation. I also was presented with an award that they give out in the club for being in the top 5% of some of the strongest people in the club at that time. So it was I forget the name of the award, but I've been actually presented with a lot of awards. But so someone came up and said, boy, is he a beast. And if I may, I do have a few things that are going on in my life. We talked about one of them being challenged with some mental challenges. Another is I have 2 hips. I have a pacemaker, my electrical system
God.
in my heart burnt out completely.
Mhm,
And I have an L5S1 lower back fusion.
mhm,
And I must tell you, I have this amazing neurosurgeon who was recommended to me, who works with athletes, named Dr. Robert Missan, who's probably doing surgery on someone right now. Not only did he help me by repairing my spine, they can only repair it and bring it back to where you have to keep up and keep moving with it. But he also spent plenty of time with me, teaching me that the Sal that I was always looking to be, I was. You know,
mhm.
I always wanted to be the athletic. So the athletic Sal, you know, doing this, doing that, helping people, and his kindness and generosity. I can only say such great things about him. Not only the fact that he's a renowned worldwide neurosurgeon down in Ocoee, Florida, Dr. Robert Missan, but he's my good friend. I could pick up the phone. Actually, Daytona Speedway right here.
Mhm.
He actually raced with his son in Daytona Speedway. You know, he's an airplane pilot. He's a race car driver. He climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. So you asked me about healthy.
Mhm.
What you do is you take charge and responsibility for your life. You seek out these people, these medical professionals that are healthy, that teach you through holistic types of methods to continue to stay healthy.
Sal, I want to know, you have a seminar coming up on April the 20th. What is that all about?
So very excited here in Margaritaville, where we're a 55 plus complex, but NJ, we run into the 60s and 70s. And I actually have neighbors next door that are 83 years old, parents of their daughter and son-in-law, who are good friends with us. And so I thought, well, thinking even with all the countless people I've helped, I'm not going to find many people with tinnitus here in Margaritaville. Well, I went to the HOA and explained to them exactly what I did. And I said, I'd like to put on a seminar. And they said, we would love to have you. It is booked right now, overbooked, not only booked,
Mhm.
but overbooked. And we're looking at a second seminar, and it's on April 20th, which is a Tuesday, I believe, at 2 p.m. And I am excited to help people. So we'll be talking about tinnitus and hearing loss.
Well, I want to, before we leave, I want to give out that email address again where they can contact you. That's T for Thomas, V for Victor, tinnitus, TINNITUS @gmail.com. Is that correct?
That is correct, NJ.
Okay. And I want to thank you so much for being such a wonderful, informative guest. I mean, you do an excellent job, and I want to bring you on another time. Would you be willing to do that?
It would be an honor to be on another time. Thank you so much. And to all the people out there who might be watching this, and particularly the ones, if I may, NJ,
Yes.
that like to say, not sure you can read it on my shirt, but it says, what'd you say? Before you tell me, what'd you say? And that's something people do kid around about.
Mhm.
Remember, you could wake up in the morning. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it happened to me and it happened to countless. In the blink of an eye, you can wake up hearing noises in your ear or understanding maybe for the first time in your life that you're really losing the quality of your life as I did. So go get your hearing checked every year. Don't forget. And if you have tinnitus, write to me. If you know someone who has tinnitus, I'll be glad to help you. It would be my honor.
Thank you. And one of Sal's tips is treat yourself to kindness. So until next time, create heaven in your heart and starlight in your soul.